The crystal chandelier above table 7 cast fractured rainbows across the white tablecloth, but Layla wasn't looking at the light. She was looking at the document. Her hands trembled as she held the dessert tray, 3 perfectly plated baklava arrangements that cost more than her weekly rent. The man at the table, draped in traditional white thobe with gold-trimmed bisht, hadn't noticed her yet. He was too focused on the leather portfolio in front of him, his fountain pen poised above a signature line. $23 million. The number screamed at her from across the table, even upside down. But it wasn't the amount that made her blood run cold. It was the Arabic script in the corner of the contract, elegant, official-looking, and completely wrong. Hi, my beautiful family. I have missed you all. Thank you so for sticking around with me. Truly appreciate your love and support. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Your dessert, sir, Layla said softly in English, her accent carefully neutral. The man, Sheikh Rashid Al-Zarani, according to the reservation, looked up with distracted courtesy. Mid-40s, sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of strong coffee. Exhausted eyes. Trusting eyes. The other man at the table, the one in the expensive Italian suit with slicked-back hair, smiled too widely. Just leave them, sweetheart. We're in the middle of something important. Layla's stomach twisted. She'd seen men like this before. Smooth. Charming. Predatory. She set down the first plate. Then the second. The Sheikh's pen touched paper. Hatha Muziaf, Layla whispered in Arabic, so quietly she almost couldn't hear herself. This is a fake. The Sheikh's pen stopped. His head snapped up, dark eyes locking onto hers with sudden, fierce intelligence. 4-3 heartbeats, the restaurant noise, clinking glasses, soft jazz, murmured conversations, faded into white noise. What did you say? He asked in English, his accent British-educated but unmistakably Gulf. The man in the Italian suit leaned forward, his smile crystallizing into something dangerous. I'm sorry, is there a problem with the service? Layla's heart hammered against her ribs. She could lose her job. She could lose more than her job if this man was connected to the wrong people. But she'd seen that contract, seen the clumsy forgery of the Dubai Land Department seal, seen the grammatical errors that no legitimate Emirati legal document would ever contain. She'd seen her father lose everything to men like this. No problem, sir, she said to the Italian suit, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. Then she met the Sheikh's eyes again and repeated in flawless Arabic, each word carefully chosen, Al-Kata Muziaf. Al-Luga Kaliya min Al-Akta, Alati la Yumkin and Tajidaha fi Wathika Hakakiya min Dubai. The seal is forged. The language contains errors that would never appear in a genuine Dubai document. The Sheikh's expression transformed. Shock, then calculation, then something that looked almost like relief flooded across his aristocratic features. The Italian suit was standing now. I don't know what she's saying, but... She's telling me, the Sheikh interrupted in English, his voice suddenly cold as desert midnight, that I was about to sign away $23 million to a very elaborate fraud. The color drained from the Italian suit's face. Security, the Sheikh said quietly, not taking his eyes off the man. Now. 3 hours later, Layla sat in the restaurant manager's office, her polyester uniform clinging to her back with nervous sweat. Through the closed door, she could hear raised voices, the Italian suit being escorted out by actual police, not just restaurant security. The contract, apparently, was part of a sophisticated international real estate scam targeting wealthy Gulf investors. She was going to be fired. She'd broken protocol, inserted herself into a guest's private business meeting, caused a scene that would probably make the local news. The door opened. Sheikh Rashid Al-Zarani walked in, and somehow he seemed even taller without the chaos around him. Behind him, her manager Mr. Peterson looked bewildered and slightly terrified. Miss Layla Hassan, the Sheikh said, reading from her name tag. My security team has just confirmed what you told me. That contract was indeed fraudulent. The seal was an excellent forgery, but the legal terminology contained 3 errors that only a native Arabic speaker with legal knowledge would catch. He paused. You saved me from losing $23 million. Layla stood, her legs shaky. I recognized the mistakes, Your Excellency. My father was a contracts lawyer in Beirut before. She stopped. Before the explosion. Before the debts. Before they lost everything and she ended up here, serving desserts to people who spent more on a single meal than her family spent in a month. Before, he prompted gently. Before we had to start over, she finished. The sheikh studied her for a long moment. Miss Hassan, I have a proposition for you. Here's a question for you. Have you ever had to choose between staying silent to protect yourself, or speaking up to protect someone else? What did you do? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. 4 days earlier. The alarm clock screamed at 4:47 a.m., 13 minutes before Layla had set it, but she was already awake. She'd been awake since 3:30, listening to her mother's labored breathing through the thin apartment wall, counting the seconds between each inhale, calculating medication costs in her head like a morbid lullaby. The studio apartment in Queens was supposed to be temporary. That was 3 years ago. Layla rolled off the pull-out couch, her bed, her living room, her dining table, and moved through the morning routine with practiced efficiency. Shower in 4 minutes. Hair pulled into a neat bun. Makeup minimal but professional. The navy blue waitress uniform hung on the back of the bathroom door, freshly pressed despite being 7 years old and showing wear at the seams. In the kitchenette, she found the note her mother had left before going to bed. Habibti, there's eggs in the fridge. Eat something. Don't worry about me. Mama. Layla crumpled the note, fighting the burn behind her eyes. Don't worry. As if that were possible when her mother's lupus medication cost $847 a month even with insurance, when the medical bills from last year's hospitalization were still arriving like clockwork, when every day felt like trying to hold water in cupped hands. She made coffee instead of breakfast, cheaper, faster, and checked her phone. 2 texts from her younger brother Omar at NYU. Hey sis, don't forget you promised to help me with that Arabic translation project this weekend. Also, I might have accidentally told Professor Chun you could translate that historical document for extra credit. Layla smiled despite herself. Omar was 22, brilliant, and the only one of them who'd managed to hold on to his dreams after Beirut. After their father, Karim Hassan, had died trying to pay off the debts that weren't even his, debts created by the same kind of scam artist who'd forged documents and left their family holding empty promises and overdue notices. She typed back, "You're lucky I love you. And yes, I'll help. But you're buying coffee." The train to Manhattan was packed with a pre-dawn crowd, nurses, bakers, cleaners, people who kept the city running while it slept. Layla found a spot near the door and pulled out her worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, the English translation bookmarked halfway through. She'd read it in Arabic first, years ago in her father's study in Beirut when she was supposed to be studying international law at the American University. That girl felt like a stranger now. "Excuse me, miss?" An elderly woman with kind eyes gestured to Layla's book. "Is that any good? My book club keeps recommending it." "It's about a man who loses everything and spends years planning his revenge," Layla said. "But in the end, he learns that living well is better than vengeance." "Sounds hopeful," the woman said. "It is," Layla replied, though she wasn't sure she believed it. La Pearl Bluey restaurant occupied the ground floor of a luxury hotel in Midtown, the kind of place where appetizers cost $50 and the dress code was enforced with polite brutality. Layla had worked there for 18 months, ever since the diner in Brooklyn closed, and she needed something that paid better, tipped better, and didn't ask too many questions about her overqualified resume. "You're early," said Marcus, the sous chef, as Layla entered through the service entrance. He was already prepping for the lunch service, his dark hands moving with the precision of a surgeon as he diced vegetables. "You're always early." "Habit," Layla said, tying her apron. "Habit or insomnia?" "Both." Marcus had worked at La Pearl Bluey for 12 years, long enough to know which waitstaff were passing through and which were stuck. He'd figured out within a week that Layla fell into the second category. "Your mom doing okay?" he asked, not looking up from his cutting board. "She's managing." The lie came easily now. "How's your daughter?" "Got accepted to nursing school. Full scholarship." Marcus's smile could have lit the windowless kitchen. "She's gonna be somebody." "She already is somebody," Layla thought but didn't say. Instead, "That's wonderful, Marcus." "Really?" The morning prep shift passed in familiar choreography, folding napkins into impossible shapes, polishing silverware until it gleamed, checking that every table setting was magazine perfect. La Pearl Bluey catered to old money, new money, and international money. Discretion was mandatory. Excellence was expected. "Layla, you're on the private dining section tonight," Mr. Peterson announced during the pre-service meeting. He was a thin, nervous man who managed the restaurant like it was a tightrope act. VIP reservation. Table 7. Middle Eastern client. Very important. Layla's stomach tightened. Middle Eastern clients always made her nervous. Not because of prejudice, but because of recognition. Because sometimes they'd hear her last name, ask questions, make connections. Because the Arab world was smaller than people thought, and the Hassan family scandal had traveled far. "Understood," she said. "And Layla?" Mr. Peterson's expression softened slightly. "You're one of our best. That's why I'm trusting you with this." One of our best. She'd been voted most likely to change the world in her high school in Beirut. Now she was one of the best waitresses. The evening service began at 6. By 7, La Pearl Bluey was full. Wall Street executives, Broadway producers, tourists who'd saved for months to eat here once. Layla moved through the dining room like a ghost, anticipating needs before guests voiced them, invisible until necessary. Table 7's reservation was for 8 o'clock. Sheikh Rashid Al-Zarani and guest. At 7:53, Layla was arranging the table's fresh flowers when Sarah, another waitress, sidled up beside her. "Did you see the guy who just walked in? Italian suit, looks like he stepped off a yacht." "No," Layla said, adjusting a rose. "He's with your VIP. Sitting at table 7. Sarah lowered her voice. "He tried to tip me $50 just to make sure their water glasses stayed full. Something feels off. Something feels off." The words lodged in Layla's chest like a warning. At 8:04, Sheikh Rashid Al-Zarani arrived, and Layla understood immediately why Mr. Peterson had been nervous. This wasn't just wealthy, this was power. The Sheikh carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd never had to prove anything, flanked by 2 discreet security personnel who took positions near the entrance. The man in the Italian suit stood to greet him, all charm and white teeth. "Your Excellency, such an honor. Please, sit. I've taken the liberty of ordering the chef's selection." Layla approached with water and menus. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to La Pearl Bluey." The Sheikh nodded politely, distracted. The Italian suit barely glanced at her. Just another waitress. Just part of the furniture. She'd learned to use that invisibility. The dinner progressed through 4 courses. Layla served, cleared, refilled glasses, and tried to ignore the growing unease in her gut. The Italian suit, who'd introduced himself to the Sheikh as Michael Castellano, real estate investment consultant, was too smooth, too practiced. He'd done this before. Between the 3rd and 4th courses, Castellano pulled out a leather portfolio. "Your Excellency, the property I mentioned, the development opportunity in Dubai Marina, the contracts are ready for your review. I know you're a busy man, so I've streamlined everything. Just needs your signature tonight, and we can wire the initial investment tomorrow." Layla was clearing the appetizer plates when she heard Dubai Marina, and her hands stilled for a fraction of a second. $23 million is not a small investment, Mr. Castellano, the Sheikh said mildly. "Which is why the returns are so extraordinary. 40% over 3 years, guaranteed. The Dubai Land Department has already approved the zoning." Castellano slid the contract across the table. "Everything's in order. I've worked with several Gulf investors, Prince Abdullah of Saudi, the Al Maktoum family office. I can provide references." The Sheikh began reading, his brow furrowed in concentration. Layla moved to the next table, but her eyes kept drifting back to table 7. Something about this was wrong. The urgency. The pressure. The way Castellano kept glancing at his watch like he was on a deadline. It reminded her of the night her father had come home gray-faced, holding papers he said would fix everything. Papers that turned out to be fraudulent loan agreements that destroyed what was left of their family's assets. "Not your business," she told herself. "Keep your head down. You need this job." But when she returned to table 7 for the dessert course, she saw the contract lying open on the table. And she saw the Arabic. Her father had spent 15 years teaching her to read contracts in 3 languages. "The details matter, Habibti," he'd say. A single word can mean the difference between justice and ruin. This contract had several wrong words. The grammatical structure was off, formal where it should be casual, casual where it should be formal. The legal terminology was outdated, the kind found in online translation programs, not actual Dubai legal documents. And the seal. Layla had seen enough Dubai Land Department paperwork when her family had briefly considered relocating there. That seal was wrong. The colors were too bright, the borders too clean, the registration number format incorrect. This was a forgery. An expensive, elaborate forgery, but a forgery nonetheless. The Sheikh picked up his pen. And Layla made a choice. The police had left 20 minutes ago, taking Michael Castellano with them in handcuffs. The restaurant had returned to its normal rhythm, or tried to. But Layla could feel the stares from other staff members, the whispers that followed her through the kitchen. Now she sat in Mr. Peterson's cramped office, facing Sheikh Rashid Al-Zarani, and wondering if she'd just destroyed her life to save his. "Miss Hassan," the Sheikh began, settling into the chair across from her with unexpected grace for a man his size. "My security team has just confirmed what you told me. That contract was indeed fraudulent. The seal was an excellent forgery, but the legal terminology contained 3 errors that only a native Arabic speaker with legal knowledge would catch." He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. "The Dubai Land Department doesn't use the term mulkiya in that context. They use tashal. The registration number format was from 2015, not current. And the signature stamp was positioned incorrectly according to current protocols." He paused. "How did you know?" Layla's mouth was dry. "My father was a contracts lawyer in Beirut. He specialized in international real estate law. Before." She stopped, the words catching in her throat. "Before," the Sheikh prompted, his voice unexpectedly gentle. "Before he died trying to pay off debts from a scam exactly like this one." The words came out flat, emotionless. She'd learned not to cry about it anymore. A man came to him with investment opportunities. Forged documents. By the time my father realized they were fake, he'd already signed over our family's assets as collateral. He spent 2 years trying to fix it. The stress, his heart gave out. The office fell silent except for the muffled sounds of the restaurant beyond the door. "I'm sorry," the Sheikh said quietly. "Truly. It was 7 years ago." Layla straightened her spine. When I saw that contract, I saw the same patterns. The same pressure tactics. I couldn't," her voice cracked. "I couldn't watch it happen again." Sheikh Rashid studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his bisht and pulled out a business card. Not his own, someone else's. "Miss Hassan, I have a proposition for you. My family owns Al-Zarani Holdings, hotels, real estate, technology investments across the Gulf and internationally. We're expanding our operations in New York, and I'm in need of someone with very specific skills." Layla stared at him. "Your Excellency, I'm a waitress." "No," he said firmly. "You're a woman with legal training who speaks fluent Arabic and English, who can spot sophisticated fraud, and who has the courage to speak up when it matters. Tonight you saved me $23 million. I'm offering you a position as my personal due diligence consultant." The room tilted slightly. "I what?" "You would review contracts, translate documents, accompany me to business meetings, and help identify potential fraud or irregularities. The salary is $120,000 annually, plus benefits, plus bonuses for any significant fraud you help uncover." He set the business card on the desk between them. "Tonight's save alone has earned you a $50,000 bonus, which will be wired to your account tomorrow." Layla couldn't breathe. $120,000. That was her mother's medications for 2 years. That was Omar's tuition. That was everything. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't know me. I could be." "My security team has already run a background check. Layla Marie Hassan, 29 years old, born in Beirut, moved to New York 7 years ago. Bachelor's degree in international law from American University of Beirut, interrupted in your final year due to family circumstances. You've been working service industry jobs since arriving in the U.S. while caring for your mother, Rania Hassan, who has lupus. Your brother Omar is studying Middle Eastern history at NYU." The Sheikh's expression was matter of fact, not apologetic. I don't make $23 million decisions lightly, Miss Hassan. And I don't hire people lightly either. That's invasive, Layla said, though she couldn't muster real anger. This was how wealthy people operated. She knew that. It's thorough, the Sheikh corrected. And it tells me you're exactly who I need. Someone who understands loss. Someone who can't be bought because money isn't what drives you, justice is. Layla looked down at the business card. Heavy stock, embossed gold lettering. Sheikh Rashid Al-Zurani, CEO, Al-Zurani Holdings. There's a catch, she said. It was too good. There was always a catch. The catch is that the work is demanding. I travel frequently, Dubai, London, Singapore. You would need to be available at irregular hours. And... He hesitated for the first time. The catch is that there are people who would rather I didn't have someone watching my back as carefully as you did tonight. Michael Castellano wasn't working alone. This was part of a larger operation targeting Gulf investors. By exposing him, you've made enemies. Cold fear slithered down Layla's spine. Enemies. My security team will protect you. But I need you to understand the risk before you accept. Layla thought about her mother's medication cabinet, about Omar's student loans, about the stack of medical bills in the drawer at home. She thought about her father, signing documents he didn't understand, trusting people he shouldn't have trusted. She thought about spending the rest of her life folding napkins and saying yes, sir, and right away, ma'am. When do I start? She asked. 11:47 p.m. Layla finally made it home to Queens, her mind still spinning. The apartment was dark except for the small lamp her mother always left on. Rania Hassan was asleep on the converted couch, a book open on her chest, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, so worn the pages were soft as cloth. Layla stood in the doorway, watching her mother breathe, and felt the weight of the evening crash over her. She'd been offered a miracle. A way out. Everything she'd been fighting for. But at what cost? Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Hassan. The voice was smooth, American, male. Unfamiliar. I understand congratulations are in order. New job, new salary. Very impressive. Layla's blood turned to ice. Who is this? A concerned party. Michael Castellano was a business associate of mine. Thanks to your interference, he's currently in police custody, and a very profitable venture has been compromised. Good, Layla said, trying to keep her voice steady. He was a criminal. Criminal is such an ugly word. He was an entrepreneur. And you, Miss Hassan, just became very expensive for my organization. The voice remained pleasant, conversational. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to decline the Sheikh's offer. You're going to forget everything you saw tonight. And in exchange, your mother will continue to receive her medications without interruption. The apartment seemed to shrink. Are you threatening my mother? I'm explaining consequences. Lupus is such a difficult condition. Medications are so important. It would be tragic if there were supply chain issues. Layla's hand clenched around the phone so hard it hurt. If you touch my family. You'll what? You're a waitress, Miss Hassan. We're a multi-million-dollar operation. Think very carefully about your next move. A pause. You have 24 hours to inform the Sheikh you're declining his offer. After that, I can't guarantee your mother's safety. Or your brother's, for that matter. NYU campus is so busy. Accidents happen all the time. The line went dead. Layla stood frozen in the dark apartment, listening to her mother's breathing, and realized with sickening clarity that saving the Sheikh hadn't been the end of anything. It had been the beginning. The next morning, Layla arrived at the hotel where Sheikh Rashid was staying, the Plaza, because of course it was the Plaza. She'd barely slept, her mind churning through impossible scenarios. Call the police? And tell them what? That someone had made vague threats over the phone? Accept the job and put her family at risk? Decline and spend the rest of her life serving desserts while her mother's condition worsened? There were no good choices. Only less terrible ones. The Sheikh's suite was on the penthouse level, guarded by 2 discreet security personnel who checked her ID against a list before allowing her entry. Inside, the suite was larger than her entire apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, furniture that probably cost more than a car, art that belonged in museums. Sheikh Rashid stood by the window, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Arabic. When he saw her, he ended the call. "Miss Hassan, I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon." His expression sharpened. "What's wrong?" "I received a call last night," Layla said, "from someone who knew about the job offer. They threatened my mother and my brother if I accepted." The Sheikh's jaw tightened. "Tell me everything." Layla recounted the conversation, word for word. The Sheikh listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. "Michael Castellano was part of a network," he said when she finished. "My security team discovered this last night. They call themselves the Crescent Syndicate. They specifically target Gulf investors using sophisticated fraud schemes. Castellano was mid-level. The people above him have resources, connections, and a reputation for eliminating problems." He met her eyes. "You're a problem now." "So I should decline the offer," Layla said numbly. "Keep my head down. Protect my family." "Is that what you want to do?" "It's what I have to do." The Sheikh crossed to a desk and picked up a tablet, tapping through several screens. "If you decline the offer, they'll still see you as a threat. You exposed Castellano. You cost them $23 million. Staying invisible isn't an option anymore. You've already been seen." Layla's stomach dropped. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying that the safest option for you and your family is to accept the position. My security team is extensive and experienced. We can protect your mother and brother far better than you can alone." He showed her the tablet. "Security profiles, risk assessments, protection protocols. I'm also saying that the Crescent Syndicate has been operating for 5 years, targeting investors across 3 continents. They've stolen an estimated $400 million. And no one has been able to stop them because they're careful, connected, and willing to eliminate witnesses." He set down the tablet. "Last night, you became the first person to publicly expose one of their operations. You have something they fear, knowledge, attention, and now potentially resources to fight back." "I'm not a fighter," Layla whispered. "You stood up to a criminal in a crowded restaurant and saved a stranger. I'd say you're more of a fighter than you think." The Sheikh's expression softened. "Miss Hassan, Layla, I can't promise this will be safe. But I can promise that if you accept, you won't be alone. And more importantly, you'll have a chance to do what your father couldn't, bring these people to justice." Layla thought about her father's study in Beirut, about the way he'd looked when he realized he'd been scammed, about the funeral where she'd been too angry to cry. She thought about the voice on the phone, smooth and confident, threatening her family like it was nothing. She thought about spending the rest of her life afraid. "If I accept," she said slowly, "I want certain conditions." "Name them." "My mother and brother get 24/7 security, starting immediately. Non-negotiable." Her voice grew stronger. "And I want to help take down the Crescent Syndicate. Not just review contracts, actually help dismantle them." Sheikh Rashid smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost mischievous. "I was hoping you'd say that." He extended his hand. Layla shook it, feeling the calluses on his palm, working hands despite the wealth, and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or signed her own death warrant. Possibly both. "Now I want to hear from you. If someone threatened your family to make you back down from doing the right thing, would you fight back or protect them by giving in? There's no wrong answer. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about it." Day 3 of her new life, and Layla still wasn't used to the car service. The black Mercedes waited outside her apartment building every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, driven by a silent, professional man named Hassan, no relation, who'd been with the Al-Zarani family for 12 years. Her mother had cried when she saw the security detail, 2 former NYPD officers who now flanked their apartment building in rotating shifts. Omar had been more practical. "So basically you're working for Batman now?" he'd asked over coffee at their tiny kitchen table. "More like Bruce Wayne's financial advisor," Layla had replied. "With significantly more paperwork." But paperwork didn't explain the locked briefcase currently sitting on her lap, or the encrypted phone the Sheikh's head of security had given her with exactly 3 contacts programmed in: Sheikh Rashid, his security chief Tariq, and emergency services. "Everything you need to review is in there," Sheikh Rashid had told her that morning in his plaza suite. Michael Castellano's phone records, financial statements, known associates. Tariq's team has been digging for 72 hours. See what you can find that we're missing. Now, sitting in the back of the Mercedes as it glided through Manhattan traffic, Layla opened the briefcase. The first document was a ledger, handwritten, old school, the kind that couldn't be hacked because it existed only on paper. Names, dates, amounts. She recognized some of them: a Saudi prince, a Kuwaiti hotel magnate, a Qatari investment fund manager. Each entry followed the same pattern: initial contact, courtship period, contract signing, wire transfer, then nothing. 23 names. 23 fortunes. Over $400 million in total losses. But it was the names with red X's through them that made her blood run cold. There were 7 of them, each with a date next to the X. Layla pulled out her personal phone and started searching. Prince Faisal Al Saud car accident in London, March 2023. Hamza Al Mansouri, apparent suicide, Dubai, July 2023. Tariq Rahman, robbery gone wrong, New York, October 2023. 7 investors who'd presumably tried to fight back or go to the authorities. 7 dead men. Layla's hands trembled as she closed the ledger. This wasn't just fraud. This was organized, systematic elimination. The car pulled up to a gleaming office building in Midtown. Al-Zarani Holdings, North American headquarters. 40th floor. Miss Hassan, the receptionist, greeted her with a practiced smile. The Sheikh is expecting you in Conference Room A. Conference Room A had better security than most banks. Retinal scanner, keycard access, soundproofed walls. Inside, Sheikh Rashid stood at the head of a long table with 2 other people, a woman in her 50s wearing a severe gray suit, and a younger man with military bearing and watchful eyes. Layla, the Sheikh said, "This is Tariq Al-Khoury, my head of security." The watchful man nodded. "And this is Catherine Morrison, former FBI White-Collar Crimes Division, now our chief investigator." "Former FBI?" Layla asked, shaking Catherine's hand. "They have too many rules," Catherine said dryly. "I prefer working in the private sector where I can actually get things done. You're the waitress who saved His Excellency $23 million. "I prefer due diligence consultant," Layla replied. Catherine's smile was razor-sharp. "I think we'll get along fine. What did you find in Castellano's files?" Layla set the ledger on the table, open to the page with the red X's. 7 dead investors. All within the past 18 months. All marked in a way that suggests they weren't random. Tariq leaned forward, his expression grim. "We'd identified 5 of them. You found 2 more. Rahman and the Saudi prince. I cross-referenced the dates with news reports. Both deaths were ruled accidental or self-inflicted, but the timing is too convenient." Layla pulled out her notes. Each death occurred within 3 weeks of the victim trying to recover their funds or threatening legal action. "They're silencing witnesses," Catherine said. "Standard organized crime playbook. You eliminate anyone who might testify or provide evidence to authorities." Sheikh Rashid's jaw tightened. "Which means Michael Castellano isn't our biggest problem. He's a foot soldier. Someone higher up is calling these shots." "Several someones," Tariq corrected. He pulled up a presentation on the conference room screen: surveillance photos, financial flowcharts, communication networks. The Crescent Syndicate operates in cells. Castellano's cell handled North American operations. There's another cell in London, one in Dubai, one in Singapore. Each cell has a handler, but they don't know each other's identities. The only person who knows the full structure is someone they call the architect. "Very dramatic," Layla muttered. "Very effective," Catherine countered. "If one cell gets compromised, the others remain operational. Classic intelligence operation structure. Whoever designed this has serious training, military, intelligence community, or both." The screen changed to show a blurry photograph, a figure in an expensive suit, face obscured by shadow, entering what looked like a private airport hangar. "This," Tariq said, "is the only image we have that might be the architect. Taken 6 months ago in Geneva by a private investigator hired by one of the victims' families. The investigator disappeared 2 weeks later." A chill ran through the room. So we're hunting a ghost who kills anyone who gets close, Layla said. How exactly are we supposed to fight that? Sheikh Rashid's smile was cold. By doing what they don't expect. They're used to wealthy men throwing money at the problem. Private investigators, security teams, legal threats. They're not used to someone who thinks like they do. What do you mean? Layla asked. You grew up in Beirut during unstable times. You learned to read people, to spot deception, to survive in spaces where trust was a luxury. The sheikh leaned against the table. The architect chose their name for a reason. They build elaborate schemes, detailed plans, perfect scenarios. But architecture has a weakness. Every building has a foundation, Layla said slowly, understanding. And if you compromise the foundation, the entire structure collapses. Sheikh Rashid gestured to the ledger. Castellano isn't the foundation. He's barely a support beam. But he knows who is. And now that he's in custody, we have exactly one chance to flip him before the syndicate realizes he's a liability. They'll kill him, Tariq said bluntly. Either in custody or through someone already inside. We have maybe 72 hours before that happens. Then we'd better work fast, Catherine said. She turned to Layla. You up for a field trip? The Manhattan Correctional Center wasn't where Layla had expected to spend her fourth day as a due diligence consultant, but here she was, passing through metal detectors while Catherine flashed credentials that made guards snap to attention. Castellano doesn't know who you are, Catherine explained as they walked through gray corridors that smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. To him, you're just the waitress who ruined his con. That's actually an advantage. He'll underestimate you. What exactly am I supposed to do? Layla asked, her heart hammering. Listen. Watch. People like Castellano can't help themselves. They're narcissists who need to prove they're the smartest person in the room. Give him an opening, and he'll brag. When he does, you catch the details everyone else misses. The interview room was exactly like every cop show Layla had ever seen. Concrete walls, metal table, 2 chairs, mirror that was obviously one-way glass. Michael Castellano sat on one side, looking significantly less polished than he had at La Pearl Bluey. Orange jumpsuit instead of Italian suit. Unshaven. Exhausted. But his eyes were still calculating. Miss Hassan, he said as Layla entered with Catherine. The waitress who thinks she's a detective. This should be entertaining. Layla sat down across from him, forcing herself to maintain eye contact. Mr. Castellano. You cost me a lot of money, Castellano continued conversationally. Do you have any idea what happens to people who cost my employers money? I have some idea, Layla said. I've been reading about 7 investors who ended up dead after trying to recover their funds. Something flickered in Castellano's expression. Respect, maybe, or recalculation. You've done your homework. I'm thorough. My father taught me that. Layla leaned forward slightly. He was a lawyer in Beirut. Contracts specialist. Someone like you destroyed my family with fake documents and empty promises. He died trying to fix it. Castellano's smile faded. That's a sad story. It's a cautionary tale, Layla corrected. Because here's what I learned from watching my father's mistakes. Men like you only have power when people don't see you coming. But once someone recognizes the pattern, the whole con falls apart. Is that what you think you're doing? Recognizing patterns. Castellano laughed, but it sounded forced. Lady, you have no idea what you're up against. The Crescent Syndicate. International fraud network. Estimated $400 million in stolen assets. Run by someone called the architect who eliminates witnesses. Layla kept her voice level. Multiple cells operating independently. You handled North American operations. How am I doing so far? Castellano's amusement vanished. You've been busy for a waitress. I prefer due diligence consultant, Layla said. And here's what else I know. You're not the architect of this operation. You're middle management. Which means the real architects are probably deciding right now whether you're more valuable alive or dead. They'll get me out, Castellano said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Will they? Because from where I'm sitting, you're a liability. You got caught. You're in federal custody. You know too much. If I were them, I'd already have someone in here making sure you never testify. Layla paused. How's the food been, by the way? No stomach problems? No mysterious illnesses? Castellano's face paled slightly. Prison is full of people who owe favors, Catherine added quietly. A guard who looks the other way. An inmate with nothing to lose. Poison in your coffee. A shank in the shower. Easy. This is a threat. Castellano asked, but his bravado was cracking. This is reality, Layla said. You have maybe 2 days before they decide you're too risky to keep alive. But there's another option. Let me guess. Cooperate and go into witness protection? Live the rest of my life in Nebraska or wherever they dump people. Castellano shook his head. You don't understand. The architect doesn't forgive. Ever. There's nowhere on earth I'd be safe. Not alone, no, Sheikh Rashid's voice came from the doorway. He entered, and suddenly the small room felt even smaller. But with the resources of the Al-Zarani family behind you? Different story. Castellano stared. You're kidding. I don't joke about business, Mr. Castellano. You tried to steal $23 million from me. But you're more valuable as an asset than a prisoner. The Sheikh sat down, his presence commanding despite the institutional setting. Here's my offer, full cooperation with our investigation. Every detail about the syndicate's operations, contacts, methods. In exchange, I'll ensure your safety, private security, new identity, relocation to a country without extradition treaties and where my family has influence. Why would you do that? Castellano asked suspiciously. Because my father was also targeted by the Crescent Syndicate, the Sheikh said quietly. 5 years ago in Dubai. He was smarter than most. He recognized the fraud before signing. But they didn't take rejection well. His car was run off the road 3 weeks later. He survived, barely. Spinal injuries. He's been in a wheelchair ever since. The room fell silent. This isn't just business for me, Mr. Castellano. It's personal. And I have the resources to protect you and destroy them, if you help me. Sheikh Rashid leaned forward. But this offer expires the moment you're moved to general population. I'd suggest deciding quickly. Castellano's hands clenched on the table. Layla watched the internal calculation play out across his face. Pride versus survival, loyalty versus self-preservation. Finally, what do you want to know? Everything, Catherine said, pulling out a recorder. Starting with how the syndicate recruits its targets. 3 hours later, Layla sat in the back of the Mercedes, her head spinning with information. The Crescent Syndicate didn't just target random wealthy investors. They were strategic, calculating. They researched their marks for months, identifying vulnerabilities, recent divorces, business setbacks, family pressures. They built elaborate backstories, created fake companies with real offices and employees, forged relationships over time. And they had someone on the inside of nearly every major financial institution in the Gulf. Banks, government offices, law firms, Castellano had explained. The architect has been building this network for decades. It's not just about fraud, it's about having eyes and ears everywhere. They know when a wealthy investor is planning a major deal, when someone's having financial difficulties, when there's an opportunity to strike. But the most disturbing revelation had come near the end of the interview. The waitress asked who else was in the restaurant that night, Castellano had said, looking directly at Layla. You think I chose La Pearl Bluey randomly? I didn't. Someone told me to meet the Sheikh there specifically. Someone who knew the layout, knew the private dining section would give us privacy, knew the staff could be trusted to be discreet. Someone on the inside, Catherine had pressed. Who? Castellano had smiled humorlessly. That's the thing about the syndicate. There are always people on the inside. Your fancy restaurant, your luxury hotel, your private bank. The architect doesn't just build fraud schemes. They build networks. And you never know who's actually working for them until it's too late. Now, as the Mercedes pulled up to her apartment building in Queens, Layla saw Omar waiting outside, flanked by his 2 security escorts. He waved, and she felt a rush of relief. He was safe, protected, real. But Castellano's words echoed in her mind. You never know who's actually working for them until it's too late. The encrypted phone buzzed. A message from Sheikh Rashid. Catherine's team is running background checks on everyone who had access to my schedule that night. Staff at La Pearl Bluey, hotel employees, even my own people. Trust no one until we identify the leak. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Good work today. Layla looked up at her apartment building, the peeling paint, the cracked sidewalk, the security guards who were really there to keep her family alive. She thought about the 7 dead investors, about the architect who'd hurt the Sheikh's father, about the vast network of corruption and violence hiding behind legitimate facades. She thought about her own father, signing documents he didn't understand, trusting people he shouldn't have. And she realized with crystal clarity that she wasn't just reviewing contracts anymore. She was at war. Layla arrived at Al-Zarani Holdings at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early as always, to find the 40th floor in controlled chaos. Police officers, building security, and people in FBI windbreakers moved through the space like a choreographed dance. The conference room A with its retinal scanners and soundproofing, had yellow crime scene tape across the door. Tariq intercepted her at the elevators, his usually composed face drawn tight. "Don't go in there." What happened? Catherine Morrison was found dead in the conference room at 6:15 this morning. Cleaning staff discovered her. Single gunshot to the head, professional execution. His voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone forcing themselves not to feel. Surveillance footage was wiped. Security logs were altered. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. The floor tilted beneath Layla's feet. Catherine, sharp-tongued, brilliant Catherine who'd been FBI, who'd known how these operations worked, who'd spent 3 hours yesterday extracting information from Castellano. "Where's the Sheikh?" Layla managed. "Secure location." The threat level just escalated to critical. Tariq guided her away from the crime scene, toward a smaller office. This wasn't random, Layla. Catherine was getting close to something. And someone decided she was too dangerous to leave alive. Inside the office, Sheikh Rashid sat at a desk, his usual composure cracked around the edges. He looked up when they entered, and Layla saw something she hadn't expected: fear. "They killed her in my building," he said quietly. "Walked past my security, my cameras, my protocols, and executed her like it was nothing. Like she was nothing." "What did Catherine find?" Layla asked. What was she working on? Background checks on La Pearl Bluey staff. Tariq pulled up files on a laptop. She'd narrowed the potential moles down to 3 people who had access to the Sheikh schedule and reservation details. She was planning to interview them today, starting with... He stopped, his face going ashen. "Starting with who?" Layla pressed. Tariq turned the laptop toward her. On the screen was a personnel file, complete with photo and employment history. Marcus Thompson, sous chef. Employed at La Pearl Bluey for 12 years. Marcus. Who'd asked about her mother. Who'd congratulated her on the new job. Who'd been there every morning when she arrived early, prepping vegetables with surgical precision. "No," Layla said. "Not Marcus. He's a good person. His daughter just got into nursing school. He's been at that restaurant forever." "Exactly," Sheikh Rashid said heavily. "Long-term placement. Deep cover." Catherine's notes indicate that Marcus Thompson isn't even his real name. His actual identity is Malik Tarazzi, former Moroccan intelligence officer who disappeared 15 years ago. He's been working for the Crescent Syndicate since at least 2010, placed at La Pearl Bluey to monitor high-value targets who dine there. The office spun. Every morning conversation, every shared coffee break, every piece of advice Marcus had given her, all of it a lie. All of it surveillance. "He would have known everything," Layla whispered. "My schedule, my family situation, where I lived. When I got the job offer, he would have reported it immediately." And when Catherine identified him as a suspect, the syndicate made a decision. Tariq's expression was grim. Eliminate the investigator and activate the asset for extraction. Marcus disappeared from his apartment last night. No one has seen him since. Wait. Layla's mind raced. Catherine was killed at 6:15 a.m. Marcus would have been prepping for breakfast service by then. He's always at the restaurant before dawn. Someone would have seen him. "Unless he wasn't the one who killed her," Sheikh Rashid said slowly. Unless there's another mole we haven't identified. The implications crashed down like a collapsing building. Not one infiltrator, multiple. A network within the network. We need to shut down this entire operation, Tariq said. Get you both to secure locations. Bring in external security we can actually trust. The encrypted phone in Layla's pocket buzzed. Then Sheikh Rashid's phone. Then Tariq's. All at the same time. Unknown number. Same message on all three screens. Conference room A. 5 minutes. Come alone or Omar Hassan dies. It's a trap, Tariq said immediately. Obviously. Obviously, Sheikh Rashid agreed. But they have your brother. Layla was already moving toward the door. Layla, wait, Tariq grabbed her arm. We need a plan. We need backup. We need 5 minutes, Layla snapped, pulling free. After that, my baby brother is dead. Plan accordingly. She didn't wait for a response. Conference room A looked exactly as it had yesterday, except for the blood. Not much. Catherine had been killed professionally, efficiently, but enough. A dark stain on the carpet near the table. And sitting in the chair where Castellano had been interrogated yesterday, calm as could be, was Marcus. Except he didn't look like Marcus anymore. The friendly, tired sous chef was gone. In his place sat someone else entirely, posture military straight, eyes cold and calculating, a gun resting casually on the table in front of him. Layla, he said. No warmth in his voice. Please sit down. The Sheikh and Tariq can wait outside. Just you and me. Where's my brother? Layla demanded, staying by the door. Safe. For now. NYU Library, 3rd floor, studying for his Islamic history midterm. 2 of my associates are watching him. If I don't check in every 15 minutes, he stops being safe. Marcus, Malik, gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. We need to talk. Layla sat, keeping the table between them, her eyes on the gun. You killed Catherine. No, actually. That was someone else. I'm not the only syndicate asset in this building, or in the Sheikh's organization for that matter. But Catherine did identify me, which created complications. He leaned back, studying her. You want to know something interesting? I actually liked you. You reminded me of my real daughter, smart, determined, trapped in circumstances beyond your control. Your daughter. The one in nursing school. Oh, that part was true. Maya's 23, studying in Montreal, completely legitimate. I kept that part of my life separate from this. He gestured vaguely at the conference room. The architect allows certain personnel to maintain genuine family connections. Makes us more believable, apparently. How considerate, Layla said coldly. So what happens now? You kill me like you killed Catherine. I didn't kill Catherine, Malik repeated with slight irritation. And I'm not going to kill you. In fact, I'm here to offer you exactly one chance to save yourself and your family. Let me guess. Walk away, forget everything, disappear quietly? Actually, no. Malik's expression was unreadable. I'm offering you the truth. About the Crescent Syndicate. About the architect. About what's really happening here. I know what's happening. International fraud network targeting wealthy investors. That's the cover story, Malik interrupted. The fraud is real, yes. The $400 million in stolen assets is real. But that's not what the syndicate actually is. It's what it pretends to be. Layla stared at him. What? Think about it. Malik leaned forward, his voice dropping. How does a fraud operation run for 5 years across multiple continents without getting caught? How do we have sources inside banks, governments, intelligence agencies? How do we eliminate witnesses so efficiently? He paused. We're not criminals, Layla. We're government contractors. The room went silent except for the building's air conditioning humming. You're lying, Layla said, but her voice shook. Am I? Who do you think trained me, a Moroccan intelligence officer, to run deep cover operations in Western countries? Who do you think provides the intelligence that lets us identify targets, access classified financial records, alter security footage? Malik's smile was bitter. The architect isn't a crime lord. The architect is a handler for a joint Western intelligence operation designed to recover assets from Gulf investors and funnel them back into programs that officially don't exist. That's insane. Is it? Your sheikh thinks he's hunting criminals. In reality, he's interfering with a sanctioned intelligence operation that has approval at the highest levels. The investors we target aren't innocent victims. They're individuals who've been flagged as threats, security risks, or potential terrorism financiers. We don't steal their money. We confiscate it. Legally, though they never know it. Layla's mind reeled. The 7 dead investors. We're about to expose the operation. We couldn't allow that. National security supersedes individual lives. Malik's expression was matter of fact. Catherine Morrison knew this. That's why she left the FBI. She discovered the operation, realized what it was, and had to be neutralized. When she resurfaced working for your sheikh, she became a problem again. So you killed her. Someone did. Not me. Malik checked his watch. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to convince the sheikh to drop this investigation. Tell him Catherine's death was a warning. Tell him that continuing to pursue the syndicate will result in federal charges against him for interfering with a classified operation. Tell him anything you want, but make him stop. And if I don't? Then Omar dies. Your mother's medications stop arriving. And you'll be arrested for conspiracy to commit espionage. We have 3 months of recorded conversations between you and the sheikh discussing classified information. All neatly documented. Malik's smile was terrible. This isn't a negotiation, Layla. This is the only offer you're going to get. Why tell me any of this? Layla asked. Why not just kill all of us? Because despite what you think, we're not monsters. We're professionals doing necessary work. And because killing a wealthy sheikh with international connections would create exactly the kind of attention we're trying to avoid. Malik stood. You have 24 hours. Convince him, or face the consequences. He walked toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You really did remind me of Maya. In another life, I think you could have been extraordinary. Then he was gone. Layla sat alone in the conference room, next to Catherine's blood, her mind fragmenting into 1,000 pieces. Government conspiracy. Sanctioned operations. Intelligence handlers. Either Malik was telling the truth and everything she thought she knew was wrong, or he was lying spectacularly in a last-ditch effort to save the syndicate. But one thing was undeniable, they had Omar. And until she figured out what was real and what was performance, her brother's life hung in the balance. The door burst open. Sheikh Rashid and Tariq rushed in, weapons drawn. Where is he? Tariq demanded. Where's Malik? Gone, Layla said numbly. He left. Said he'd kill Omar if we don't drop the investigation. The hell we will, the sheikh growled. Tariq, I want every resource we have finding Marcus, Malik, whatever his name is. I want. He told me something else, Layla interrupted. He said the Crescent Syndicate isn't what we think it is. He said it's a government intelligence operation. That we're interfering with classified national security work. The sheikh and Tariq exchanged glances. That's ridiculous, Tariq said. But he didn't sound certain. Is it? Layla looked at them both. How else do they have access to everything they have? How else do they operate with impunity across international borders? What if he's telling the truth? Sheikh Rashid sat down heavily in the chair Malik had vacated. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, my father told me something years ago. After the accident. After we tried and failed to bring charges against the people who hurt him. He said, Rashid, some fights you cannot win because you're not fighting criminals. You're fighting systems. You think the syndicate is government-backed? Layla asked. I think Catherine Morrison was former FBI who left under mysterious circumstances. I think Malik Tarazzi was Moroccan intelligence who disappeared. I think every investor the syndicate has targeted has been from the Gulf, and Western intelligence agencies have been paranoid about Gulf money funding extremism for decades. The sheikh's jaw tightened. I think it's possible we've stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than we realized. So what do we do? Layla whispered. Before anyone could answer, Tariq's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. Michael Castellano is dead. Poison in his morning coffee. Guards are investigating, but initial reports suggest suicide. Tariq looked at them both. He's been eliminated. The last witness. Gone. They're cleaning house, Sheikh Rashid said quietly. Removing everyone who knows too much. Which means we're next, Layla finished. The encrypted phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. New message. Your brother is running out of time. 11:47 deadline. Make the right choice. The architect is always watching. 11:47. That was. Layla checked her watch. 3 hours from now. I need to call Omar, she said, hand shaking as she reached for her personal phone. But when she unlocked it, there was already a message waiting. From Omar's number. Time-stamped 10 minutes ago. Sis, some guy just sat down next to me in the library. Says he's a friend of yours. Says you'll understand. He showed me a photo. It's the one from Dad's study, the one that was destroyed in the fire. How does he have that? The photo from her father's study. The one taken the day before he died, showing their whole family smiling, believing everything would be okay. The photo only existed in one place, the case files from her father's fraud investigation. Files that were sealed by Lebanese authorities. Files that intelligence agencies could access. Layla looked up at Sheikh Rashid, and in that moment, they both understood, Malik hadn't been lying. The Crescent Syndicate was real. The architect was real. And they had been government-sanctioned all along. The secure location Tariq had arranged turned out to be a private apartment in a nondescript building in Brooklyn. The kind of place that looked abandoned from the outside but had reinforced doors, encrypted communications, and enough surveillance equipment to monitor half the city. Layla sat on a worn couch, her phone in her hands, staring at Omar's last message. Sheikh Rashid paced like a caged animal. Tariq worked 3 laptops simultaneously, trying to trace the threat, locate Omar, find any weakness in the syndicate's armor. They'd found nothing. I should just call them, Layla said for the 5th time. Tell them we'll stop. Whatever they want, we'll stop. And you believe they'll actually let Omar go? Sheikh Rashid stopped pacing. These are people who poisoned a man in federal custody. Who executed Catherine in my own building. Who've killed 7 investors for trying to recover their own money. You think they honor deals? I think it's the only chance my brother has. It's not a chance, it's surrender. And surrender doesn't guarantee safety. It just guarantees you're defenseless when they decide you know too much. The Sheikh's voice was harsh, but his eyes were anguished. I'm sorry, Layla. I brought you into this. Your brother is in danger because I hired you, because I made you a target. Stop. Layla stood, her exhaustion transforming into something harder. You didn't create the Crescent Syndicate. You didn't kill those 7 investors or hurt your father or destroy mine. They did. And feeling guilty doesn't help Omar. Tariq looked up from his laptops. She's right. Guilt is useless. Strategy is what matters. He pulled up a map of Manhattan, NYU campus highlighted. Omar's last known location was the Bobst Library, 3rd floor. Campus security footage shows him leaving at 10:23 a.m. with 2 men, one matching Malik's description, one unknown. They got into a black SUV, license plates obscured. Vehicle was abandoned in Chinatown 20 minutes later. So they moved him, Sheikh Rashid said. Could be anywhere in the city by now. Or they want us to think that. Tariq zoomed in on a section of the map. But there's a pattern. Every syndicate operation we've traced has a secondary location within a 3-mile radius of the primary target. Castellano met you at La Pearl Bluey in Midtown. His backup location was a warehouse in Hell's Kitchen. Catherine was killed at our Midtown office. Marcus's apartment was in Chelsea. They stay close. Easier to monitor, easier to extract. So if they took Omar from NYU. Layla followed his logic. There should be a secondary location nearby. Exactly. And I found something interesting in Catherine's notes. Tariq pulled up a document. She'd identified 3 properties in Greenwich Village registered to shell companies with ties to the syndicate. One of them is a brownstone on McDougal Street, supposedly a private art gallery. Closed for renovations for the past 6 months. That's 2 blocks from campus, Sheikh Rashid said. And it has a basement with soundproofing, listed on the original building permits as a climate-controlled storage space. Tariq's expression was grim. Perfect place to hold someone you don't want heard. Hope flared in Layla's chest, sharp and painful. We need to go there. Now. It's a trap, Tariq said flatly. They're either holding Omar there as bait, or it's a diversion while they move him somewhere else. Either way, walking in without a plan is suicide. Then what's the plan? Layla demanded. We have less than 2 hours. The plan, Sheikh Rashid said slowly, is to give them what they think they want. Me. Both Layla and Tariq stared at him. Absolutely not, Tariq said. Your Excellency, you're the primary target. If they capture you, then they have leverage to make their terms. But more importantly, they'll be focused on me instead of Omar. The Sheikh's expression was calm, resolved. Layla walks in, offers to trade me for her brother. While they're distracted with negotiations, Tariq's team extracts Omar through whatever back entrance the brownstone has. That's not a plan, that's a sacrifice, Layla said. They'll kill you. Maybe. But your father died because no one powerful enough cared to stop these people. Catherine died investigating them. 7 investors died trying to recover their stolen futures. Sheikh Rashid met her eyes. I'm not letting Omar become number 8 just because I'm afraid. There has to be another way. There isn't. His voice was gentle but final. This is the only play we have. And Layla, if something happens to me, you need to finish this. Find the architect. Expose the truth. Promise me. Layla wanted to scream, to argue, to find some brilliant solution that saved everyone. But she'd seen enough tragedy to know the universe didn't work that way. Sometimes there were only bad choices and worse ones. I promise, she whispered. 11:29 a.m. 18 minutes until deadline. The brownstone on McDougal Street looked exactly like an art gallery under renovation. Scaffolding on the facade, windows covered with paper, a discreet closed for restoration sign. Exactly like a dozen other buildings in Greenwich Village. Exactly like the kind of place you'd never look twice at. Layla stood across the street, the encrypted phone in her hand, watching. Sheikh Rashid was 3 blocks away with a security detail, waiting for her signal. Tariq and his team were positioned at the building's rear entrance, infrared scanners confirming at least 3 heat signatures in the basement. One of them had to be Omar. She dialed the number that had been texting her. It rang once. Miss Hassan. Malik's voice, calm and professional. Cutting it close, aren't you? I'm across the street from your gallery. I'm coming in. But first, I need proof Omar is alive. A pause. Then Omar's voice, strained but unmistakably his. Layla? What's happening? These people say. The phone was taken away. He's alive. For now. Come inside. Alone. If I see anyone else, any security, any police. I know. He dies. Layla took a breath. I'm offering a trade. Omar for Sheikh Rashid al-Zahrani. That's who you really want, isn't it? Not some waitress and her college student brother. You want the sheikh who's been investigating you, who has resources and connections. Another pause, longer this time. She could almost hear the calculation happening. Where is he? Close. I bring you to him, you release Omar. Simple exchange. Nothing is simple, Miss Hassan. But I appreciate the offer. Malik's tone shifted, became almost amused. Come inside. Let's discuss terms. You have 10 minutes. The line went dead. Layla texted Tariq, going in. Wait for my signal. Then she crossed the street and walked into the dark mouth of the brownstone. Inside, the gallery was gutted. Bare walls, exposed beams, drop cloths covering the floor. Empty. Silent. A single door at the back led to stairs descending into darkness. Layla's heart hammered as she descended, each step taking her deeper into the trap she knew was waiting. At the bottom, a corridor lit by harsh fluorescent lights. Voices ahead. The basement was larger than it should have been, extending beyond the brownstone's footprint, probably connected to neighboring buildings through old tunnel systems. In the center of the space, tied to a chair, was Omar. His face was bruised, lips split, but his eyes widened with relief when he saw her. "Layla." "Shoo. It's okay. I'm getting you out." "How touching." Malik emerged from the shadows, gun in hand but pointed at the floor. Not threatening yet, but ready. Family loyalty. It's admirable, really. Reminds me why I keep Maya out of this life. 2 other men flanked him, the security from the SUV, both armed. 3 against 1. Terrible odds. "I brought what you wanted," Layla said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sheikh Rashid is 3 blocks away. Let Omar go, I'll take you to him. And I should trust this because I have no other choice. Because my brother is all I have left." Layla's voice broke, not entirely an act. "Please. He's just a kid. He has nothing to do with any of this." Malik studied her for a long moment. Then, to her shock, he lowered his gun. "You're right. He doesn't." He nodded to one of his men. "Cut him loose." Layla's mind reeled. This was too easy. Something was wrong. The guard approached Omar with a knife, cutting the ropes binding his wrists. Omar stumbled to his feet, swaying. Layla caught him, holding him upright. "Omar, can you walk?" "I think so. They drugged me earlier, but it's wearing off." His voice was slurred but determined. "Layla, these guys, they said things about Dad. About his death. They said." "Not now. We need to move." Layla looked at Malik. "We're leaving. I'll call the Sheikh once Omar is safe." "Of course." Malik smiled. "But before you go, there's something you should know. About your father." Layla froze. "What?" "Kareem Hassan. Brilliant lawyer. Loving father. Destroyed by fraud, or so the story goes." Malik's expression was unreadable. "But what if I told you the fraud was real, but his involvement wasn't accidental? What if I told you he wasn't a victim, he was an investigator?" The basement tilted. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Your father specialized in international law, specifically anti-fraud cases. 7 years ago, he was approached by Lebanese intelligence to help investigate a fraud network targeting Gulf investors, the early version of what would become the Crescent Syndicate." Malik pulled out a folder, threw it at Layla's feet. He agreed. Went undercover. Pretended to be a desperate lawyer who'd made bad investments. Got close to the operation. Too close. Layla bent slowly, picked up the folder with shaking hands. Inside were documents, intelligence briefings, correspondence, reports, all bearing her father's name and signature. "He was gathering evidence to expose them," Malik continued. "But they discovered what he was really doing. So they killed him, made it look like the stress of debt. Heart attack, perfectly natural. And they let his family believe he'd been a fool who destroyed everything through greed." Tears blurred Layla's vision as she read her father's notes. Detailed observations about fraud patterns. Names of suspected syndicate members. Plans to coordinate with international authorities. He hadn't been a victim. He'd been a hero. And they'd killed him anyway. "Why are you telling me this?" Layla whispered. "Because I want you to understand what you're really fighting." Malik's voice was almost gentle. "Your father tried to stop the syndicate. He failed. Catherine Morrison tried. She failed. 7 wealthy investors tried. They all failed. This isn't an organization you can defeat, Layla. It's a system. And systems don't die, they adapt. So I should give up? Let you win? I'm saying you should choose life over martyrdom. Your father couldn't. But you still can." Malik gestured to the stairs. "Take your brother. Leave New York. We'll erase your involvement in this investigation. You and your family will be safe. All you have to do is walk away." Layla looked at Omar, bruised and drugged but alive. She thought about her mother, fragile and sick, who'd already lost a husband. She thought about the life she could have, quiet, safe, normal. She thought about her father, fighting alone against impossible odds, dying with the world thinking he was a failure. "No," she said quietly. "Excuse me." "No. I'm not walking away." Layla stood straighter, still holding Omar. "My father didn't die fighting you so I could surrender. He died because he was alone. But I'm not alone. I have the Sheikh, I have resources, I have—" "You have nothing," Malik interrupted, his patience finally cracking. "The Sheikh is one man. Rich, yes. Connected, yes. But this operation has protection at the highest levels of Western intelligence. You cannot win this fight." "Maybe not." Layla met his eyes. "But I can make sure everyone knows you exist. I can expose the syndicate, reveal the government connections, create enough noise that you can't operate in shadows anymore. Even if it destroys me, I can destroy you first." For the first time, Malik looked genuinely uncertain. The encrypted phone in Layla's pocket buzzed. Once. The signal. "Omar," she whispered. "When I say run, run for the stairs. Don't look back." "Layla." "Run." She shoved Omar toward the stairs as the back wall of the basement exploded inward. Not literally, but Tariq's team came through the old tunnel entrance with flashbangs and smoke grenades, turning the space into chaos. Layla dove for cover as gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. Through the smoke, she saw Omar stumble up the stairs. Safe. Getting away. She saw Malik firing at Tariq's team, his face twisted with fury. She saw the folder with her father's intelligence reports, scattered across the floor, evidence, proof, truth. And she made a choice. Instead of running for safety, Layla grabbed the folder and ran deeper into the basement, toward the tunnel system, toward the dark, away from rescue, away from protection, clutching the only proof that her father had died fighting for something that mattered. Behind her, someone shouted her name. Sheikh Rashid's voice, desperate. But she didn't stop. Because sometimes the only way to win was to risk losing everything. The tunnels beneath Greenwich Village were older than Layla had imagined. Original infrastructure from the 1800s, brick archways slick with moisture, the smell of earth and decay. Her phone's flashlight created wild shadows as she ran, the folder clutched against her chest like a shield. Behind her, shouting, gunfire, chaos. Ahead, darkness and the unknown. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she kept moving, driven by something she couldn't name. Desperation, determination, or maybe just the refusal to let her father's sacrifice mean nothing. The tunnel branched. Left or right? She chose left, purely on instinct, and found herself in a wider passage with old electrical conduits running along the ceiling. The sounds of pursuit faded behind her. Either she'd lost them, or they decided she wasn't worth chasing into the dark. Layla stopped, pressing her back against the cold brick wall, trying to catch her breath and think clearly. "What are you doing?" The question echoed in her mind in her father's voice. Not accusing, curious. The way he'd ask when she'd made an impulsive decision as a teenager. "What are you doing, Habibti? And have you thought through what comes next?" What was she doing? She'd saved Omar. That part of the plan had worked. Tariq's team had breached the basement, creating the distraction they needed. Her brother was safe, probably already in a car heading somewhere secure with the Sheikh's protection. Mission accomplished. Except she'd run the wrong direction. Away from safety. Deeper into danger. Clutching a folder of 7-year-old intelligence reports that proved her father had been investigating the syndicate, but didn't prove anything about the organization's current operations or government connections. Evidence that would make people ask questions, maybe. But evidence that would destroy the Crescent Syndicate? No. Layla slid down the wall until she was sitting on the grimy tunnel floor, surrounded by darkness and the weight of her own choices. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to the shadows. To her father's memory. To the universe that kept putting impossible decisions in front of her. "I have proof you weren't a failure, Baba. I can clear your name." But Malik was right. This system is too big. Too protected. One folder of old reports won't stop them. The silence that answered was absolute. Layla opened the folder, scanning her father's notes by phone light. His handwriting, precise, methodical, so familiar it hurt. Dates, names, observations. A map of how the syndicate had operated 7 years ago. But then something caught her eye. A note scribbled in the margin of one page. "The architect is the key. Everything flows from the center. Cut off the head, the body dies. Cage. The architect. Her father had known, or suspected, that the entire operation depended on one person orchestrating everything. And if that person could be identified, exposed, stopped. Layla's hands stilled. She'd been thinking about this all wrong. The Crescent Syndicate wasn't the problem, it was a symptom. The government connections, the international reach, the sophisticated operations, all of it required someone with extraordinary access and authority. Someone who could coordinate between intelligence agencies, manipulate official records, order executions. Someone who'd been doing this for at least 7 years. Probably longer. The architect is the key. Layla pulled out the encrypted phone, surprised it still had signal this deep underground. One contact. Sheikh Rashid. She typed quickly. I'm okay. In tunnels under Greenwich Village. Need you to find something. Who had authority to seal my father's fraud investigation files in Lebanon? Not local police. Intelligence level. Find out who gave that order 7 years ago. That's the architect. She sent it before she could second-guess herself. 30 seconds later, the phone buzzed. Are you insane? Get out of there now. Omar is safe, but Tariq's team lost Malik in the chaos. He could be in those tunnels with you. Layla typed back, good. I want him to find me. I have something he needs. What? Bait. She didn't wait for a response. Instead, she stood, brushed herself off, and started walking deeper into the tunnel system. Not running now, walking with purpose, making noise, leaving a trail. Because she'd realized something crucial. Malik had given her that folder on purpose. He'd told her about her father on purpose. Not out of kindness or respect, but because he wanted her to have hope. Wanted her to think she had leverage. Wanted her to make exactly the kind of desperate emotional decision she just made. Running into the dark with evidence that proved nothing. It was manipulation. Psychological warfare. And now she was going to turn it against him. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, probably an old subway station from a line that was never completed, graffitied walls and rusted tracks. A single exit at the far end, metal door with a crash bar. Perfect. Layla positioned herself in the center of the space, back to the door, folder visible in her hands. Then she waited. She didn't have to wait long. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel she'd just exited. Measured, confident. Malik emerged from the darkness, gun drawn but not pointed at her. Yet. Clever, he said, his voice echoing in the empty space. Leading me away from the firefight. Very strategic. Except now you're alone, in the dark, with no backup. What exactly was the plan here, Layla? The plan, Layla said, surprised by how steady her voice was to stop running. Philosophical, but not particularly practical. Malik moved closer, cautious. You have my folder. Congratulations. It's a nice piece of your father's legacy. But it won't save you, and it won't stop the syndicate. I know. Layla held up the folder. This proves my father was investigating you 7 years ago. It proves he was murdered. But it doesn't prove anything about your current operations or government connections. It's historically interesting but legally useless. Malik stopped, confused by her calm. Then why take it? Because it got you alone. Layla smiled, though her heart was racing. Away from your team. Away from witnesses. Just you and me and the truth. What truth? That you're tired. The words hung in the air between them. Excuse me. Malik's expression was carefully neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. You told me about your daughter. Maya, 23, nursing school in Montreal. You kept her separate from this life because you love her. Because you want something clean and good in a world full of manipulation and blood. Layla took a step forward. You told me I reminded you of her. That I could be extraordinary in another life. Why would you say that unless part of you wishes you could be in another life too? That's a nice story, Malik said coldly. Doesn't change reality. No. But it explains why you gave me this folder. Why you told me about my father when you could have just let me believe the lie. Another step forward. Because you're not a psychopath, Malik. You're a professional doing a job you once believed in. But somewhere along the way, maybe when they killed my father, maybe when they murdered Catherine, Maybe when they ordered you to drug a college kid who'd done nothing wrong, you stopped believing. Enough. The architect ordered you to kill me today, didn't they? Layla pressed. Not capture. Not threaten. Kill. Because I'm too much of a problem now. But you didn't. You gave me this folder and told me to run instead. Why? Malik's gun hand wavered. Just slightly. Because unlike the architect, you still have a conscience, Layla continued, her voice softer now. You told me systems don't die, they adapt. But you know what else adapts? People. They can change. Choose differently. My father chose to fight even though it killed him. Catherine chose to investigate even though it got her executed. I'm choosing to stop running even though, her voice caught. Even though I'm terrified. Terrifying speeches don't change power structures, Malik said, but there was no conviction in his voice. No. But people change power structures. One choice at a time. One truth at a time. Layla held up the folder. I can't destroy the Crescent Syndicate alone. But you can. You know the operations, the handlers, the government contacts. You know who the architect is. If I tell you, I'm dead within 24 hours. Maybe. Or maybe you disappear before they can reach you. Sheikh Rashid offered you protection once. That offer still stands. New identity, new life, new chance for you and Maya both. All you have to do is give us the architect's real name. Malik laughed, but it sounded broken. You think it's that simple? I think simple and easy are different things. It's simple, tell the truth, save lives, including your own. But it's not easy, because it means admitting you've been working for something that stopped serving justice a long time ago. Layla's eyes burned with unshed tears. My father died alone, thinking he'd failed. Don't die the same way. The gun lowered. Completely. Malik stood there in the abandoned station, a man caught between the life he'd built and the one he'd wanted, and for the first time since Layla had met him, he looked small. Human. Breakable. The architect, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper, isn't one person. It's two. A partnership. That's why the operation is so sophisticated. It's not government-sanctioned. It's government officials using their positions for personal profit. They've been stealing from Gulf investors and splitting the proceeds while hiding behind national security classifications. Layla's breath caught. Who? Deputy Director James Mercer, CIA. And Senator Patricia Whitmore, Intelligence Committee. Malik's expression was hollow. They've been running this operation for 9 years. Everything legitimate on the surface, decorated careers, security clearances, public trust. And underneath, a fraud empire that's netted them nearly $500 million. The phone in Layla's pocket buzzed. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen. A message from Sheikh Rashid. Found it. The order to seal your father's files came from a CIA deputy director. Requesting name now. Layla showed Malik the message. My team is already digging. Your information confirms what they're finding. Help us build the case, and we can expose them both before they have a chance to eliminate witnesses. They have resources I can't even begin to describe, Malik said. Security, connections, contingency plans. So do we. Layla extended her hand. My father fought alone and died. Catherine fought without enough support and died. But you don't have to. Help us. Please. For a long moment, Malik stared at her outstretched hand. Then slowly, hesitantly, he holstered his weapon and took it. Maya can never know what I've done, he said quietly. She'll know her father chose the right side when it mattered most, Layla replied. That's enough. They emerged from the tunnels 40 minutes later through a maintenance access in Washington Square Park, blinking in the afternoon sunlight like creatures from another world. A black Mercedes waited at the curb, Sheikh Rashid's car. The door opened, and the Sheikh himself stepped out, followed by Omar and Tariq. Omar ran to her, nearly tackling her with a hug. You're insane, you know that? Runs in the family, Layla said, holding her brother tight. Dad was insane too. In the best way. She met Sheikh Rashid's eyes over Omar's shoulder. He looked at Malik with calculation and question. He's helping us, Layla said. He knows who the architect is. Both of them. Both. The Sheikh's eyebrows rose. It's a story that requires secure communications and multiple recording devices, Malik said tiredly. And possibly several lawyers. Can we please go somewhere that isn't visible from every window in Manhattan? I have just the place, Sheikh Rashid said. Then to Layla, you took a massive risk down there. I know. Your father would be proud. The words hit harder than Layla expected. She nodded, not trusting her voice. As they climbed into the Mercedes, Layla looked back at the park, ordinary people living ordinary lives, completely unaware of the extraordinary corruption happening in their government's name. Not for much longer, she thought. The fight wasn't over. But for the first time since this all began, Layla felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel: hope. Before we get to the ending, I need to know, have you ever had a moment where you had to decide between playing it safe and taking a massive risk for something you believed in? What did you choose? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear it. The secure facility wasn't what Layla expected. Not a bunker or safe house, but a media studio in Midtown, complete with cameras, lighting rigs, and a control room that looked like it belonged to a news network. You own a television production company? Layla asked as they entered through a private entrance. I own 17% of one, Sheikh Rashid corrected. My family invests in media across 3 continents. This particular studio produces investigative journalism documentaries. Several have won awards. His smile was grim. And this afternoon, we're going to produce the most important one. In the control room, Tariq had already assembled a team: audio engineers, video editors, a woman Layla didn't recognize who introduced herself as Rebecca Chun, investigative journalist and 3-time Emmy winner. You're the waitress, Rebecca said, shaking Layla's hand with surprising warmth. The one who spotted the fraud. Rashid told me. That took guts. Or stupidity, Layla replied. I haven't decided which. In my experience, they're often the same thing. Rebecca turned to Malik, assessing him with a journalist's sharp eye. And you're the former asset who's about to commit career suicide by going on record against 2 of the most powerful people in American intelligence. That definitely qualifies as both. Malik looked uncomfortable under her scrutiny. I have conditions. My daughter's identity stays protected. And I want written immunity from prosecution before I say anything on camera. Already drafted, Tariq said, handing him a document. Sheikh Rashid's legal team has been working on it since you emerged from the tunnels. Immunity in exchange for full cooperation and testimony. It's been vetted by 3 different law firms. While Malik read, Sheikh Rashid pulled Layla aside. Are you sure about this? Once we go public, there's no taking it back. Mercer and Whitmore will use every resource they have to destroy us, legally, financially, possibly physically. I'm sure, Layla said. My father tried to expose them quietly, through official channels. It got him killed and his evidence buried. The only way this works is if we make so much noise they can't silence us. Agreed. Which is why we're not just filming an interview. The Sheikh gestured to the screens in the control room, each showing different feeds. We're streaming it live to multiple platforms simultaneously: news networks, social media, international outlets. By the time Mercer and Whitmore realize what's happening, millions of people will have seen it. Can't bury what's already public. Omar, who'd been quiet since they arrived, finally spoke up. What about the people who'll try to discredit you? Call it conspiracy theories, fake news, whatever. That's where I come in, Rebecca said. I've been investigating financial crimes for 15 years. I have credibility. When I vouch for this story, people listen. She looked at Malik. But I need details. Names, dates, operations. Everything that can be verified independently. Malik signed the immunity document, his hand steady. I can give you 9 years of operations. Transaction records, communication protocols, the names of every asset in the network, including the ones still active in government positions. How many are there? Tariq asked. Across all agencies? 43. Malik's expression was haunted. Mercer and Whitmore have been recruiting for nearly a decade. Everyone from field agents to administrative staff. Some know what they're really doing. Most think they're part of legitimate intelligence operations. 43 government employees involved in systematic fraud, Rebecca breathed. This isn't a story. This is a scandal that'll bring down entire departments. Good, Sheikh Rashid said coldly. They hurt my father. They killed Layla's father. They've destroyed dozens of families and murdered anyone who got close to the truth. They deserve to burn. The interview setup was simple. Malik in a chair, face visible but voice disguised electronically for his daughter's protection. Layla beside him, holding the folder of her father's notes. Rebecca across from them both, professional and composed. Sheikh Rashid off camera but present, a silent reminder of the resources backing this exposure. We go live in 5 minutes, the audio engineer announced. All platforms are ready. Encryption is in place to prevent shutdown attempts. Once we start, it'll take them at least 20 minutes to coordinate a response. 20 minutes is all we need, Rebecca said. She looked at Layla. You ready? Layla thought about her father, dying thinking he'd failed. About Catherine Morrison, executed for getting too close. About 7 investors who tried to fight back and paid with their lives. I'm ready. 3, 2, 1, we're live. Rebecca's professional mask slid into place as she addressed the camera. Good evening. I'm Rebecca Chen, and what you're about to hear is the result of a months-long investigation into a criminal conspiracy operating at the highest levels of American intelligence. This is a story about fraud, murder, and the abuse of national security apparatus for personal profit. With me are 2 individuals whose testimony will expose a network that has stolen over $400 million and killed at least 7 people to cover their tracks. She turned to Layla. Miss Hassan, tell us about your father. And Layla did. She told them about Karim Hassan, the brilliant lawyer who'd been recruited by Lebanese intelligence to investigate fraud. About how he'd gone undercover, gathered evidence, and been murdered for getting too close. About how her family had been left believing he was a failure when he'd actually been a hero. Then Malik took over, his disguised voice giving detailed testimony about the Crescent Syndicate structure, operations, and leadership. He named names, not just Mercer and Whitmore, but their network of assets. He provided account numbers, transaction records, communication logs. He gave them everything. Deputy Director James Mercer and Senator Patricia Whitmore, Rebecca repeated for the camera, have been running this operation for 9 years, stealing from foreign investors while using their positions to block investigations and eliminate witnesses. These aren't allegations. We have documentation, testimony, and corroborating evidence from multiple sources. On the control room monitors, social media feeds exploded. The stream was being shared thousands of times per minute. News networks were picking it up. Twitter X was trending with hashtag Crescent Scandal. Incoming call, Tariq announced. Blocked number. Sheikh Rashid took the call, putting it on speaker. Yes. Your Excellency. A woman's voice, cultured and cold. Senator Patricia Whitmore. I believe we should talk before this situation escalates further. I believe that ship has sailed, Senator, the Sheikh replied. Currently, 2.3 million people are watching your criminal empire get exposed on live television. That exposure is based on the testimony of a known criminal and the paranoid delusions of a waitress whose father died of natural causes. Whitmore's voice remained calm. My office will be releasing a statement within the hour explaining that this is a disinformation campaign designed to undermine American intelligence operations. By tomorrow, you'll be the conspiracy theorist, not me. Perhaps. Except your partner just made a mistake. Sheikh Rashid's smile was savage. Show them, Tariq. On the live stream screens, a new feed appeared, security footage from 30 minutes ago showing James Mercer entering an office building in Langley. Nothing incriminating, until Tariq enhanced the audio, revealing a phone conversation. Mercer's voice, clear as day. Whitmore, they have Malik. He's talking. We need to activate the contingency, eliminate the Sheikh, the woman, and anyone else involved before this spreads. Use the assets we have in NYPD. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The control room fell silent. On the live feed, Rebecca turned to the camera. You just heard Deputy Director Mercer ordering the murder of American citizens on U.S. soil. That audio was captured 27 minutes ago by private security and has been verified by 3 independent forensic analysts. It's already been forwarded to the FBI Director, the Attorney General, and the Senate Ethics Committee. How did you? Whitmore's composure finally cracked. That's impossible. That facility has classified-level security. Your security has been compromised for 6 months, Sheikh Rashid said pleasantly. One of your own assets, a woman named Catherine Morrison, planted surveillance devices throughout Mercer's office before she left the FBI. She knew what you were. She just couldn't prove it while she was alive. But her insurance policy is proving very useful now. Catherine. Even in death, she'd found a way to fight back. You've just made a very powerful enemy, Whitmore hissed. No, Senator. I've just exposed 2 criminals who thought their positions made them untouchable. The Sheikh's voice hardened. You destroyed my father's body. You murdered Layla's father. You killed 7 investors whose only crime was trusting the wrong people. You ordered Catherine Morrison's execution. And you just confessed, on recorded line that's currently being monitored by federal investigators, to conspiracy to commit murder. A new voice came through the speaker. Senator Whitmore, this is Assistant Director Jennifer Park, FBI. You're currently surrounded by federal agents. Please exit your office with your hands visible. Deputy Director Mercer is already in custody. It's over. The line went dead. In the studio, nobody moved. On the monitors, social media was exploding. Major news networks breaking into regular programming, politicians issuing statements, hashtags trending worldwide. Then Omar started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster, and suddenly everyone in the control room was applauding. For Layla, for Malik, for Catherine's posthumous victory, for justice finally catching up to people who'd thought they were above it. Rebecca turned off the live feed and slumped in her chair. That, she said, is going to win me another Emmy. Possibly several. That, Layla corrected, tears streaming down her face, is going to change everything. Sheikh Rashid approached Malik, extending his hand. You did the right thing. I did the only thing that let me sleep at night, Malik replied, shaking it. Though I suspect I won't be sleeping much for a while. Witness protection is going to be interesting. About that, the Sheikh said. I have a better offer. My family has properties in 12 countries, several without extradition treaties and all with excellent security. Maya would have access to the best medical education in the world. You'd both be safe, comfortable, and far from any remaining syndicate assets. Malik stared. Why would you do that? Because you saved my life tonight by providing evidence that stopped an assassination order. And because everyone deserves a second chance. The Sheikh smiled. Besides, I may need someone with your particular skills to help dismantle the remaining syndicate cells. Interested? Very, Malik said quietly. Layla watched this exchange, feeling something shift in her chest, the weight she'd been carrying since her father's death finally beginning to lift. Not gone entirely. It would never be entirely gone. But lighter. Manageable. Tariq approached with a tablet. The FBI has issued warrants for 41 individuals connected to the syndicate. Mercer and Whitmore are in federal custody. International law enforcement is coordinating arrests across 6 countries. It's happening. What about the investors? Layla asked. The ones whose money was stolen, can they get it back? The Sheikh's legal team is already coordinating with authorities to trace and recover assets, Tariq replied. It'll take years, but yes. Much of it can be recovered and returned. Years. But it would happen. Justice would happen. Omar hugged her from behind. You did it, sis. You actually did it. We did it, Layla corrected, turning to embrace him properly. All of us. Together. Rebecca was already on her phone, coordinating follow-up coverage. The audio engineers were backing up files to secure servers. The live stream had ended, but the evidence remained, permanent, public, undeniable. Sheikh Rashid stood by the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. When Layla joined him, he spoke without turning. Your father would be proud. More than proud, he'd be in awe. He'd probably remind me I could have been killed, Layla said. Then he'd hug me and tell me I was brave and stupid in equal measure. Sounds like a good father. He was the best. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights, until Layla's phone buzzed. Her mother, who'd been under protection at a secure location, finally getting word that it was safe. Habibti, I don't understand everything that happened, but Omar says you're a hero. I always knew you were. Come home when you can. I made kafta. Mama. Layla smiled through fresh tears. Kafta. Her father's favorite. Go, Sheikh Rashid said gently. Be with your family. Tomorrow we'll deal with everything else: legal proceedings, media interviews, organizational restructuring. Tonight, you deserve to just be Layla Hassan, who saved her brother and avenged her father and changed the world. I'm still getting used to the last part, Layla admitted. Get used to it quickly. Because tomorrow, you're officially my chief security analyst with a significant raise. Someone has to help dismantle the remaining syndicate operations across 11 countries. 11? I thought Malik said there were cells in 4 regions. He said there were 4 major cells. But our investigation uncovered 7 smaller operations that Mercer and Whitmore weren't even aware of. The Sheikh's expression was determined. The syndicate might be broken, but it's not dead. Not yet. We finish what your father and Catherine started. Layla looked at him, this wealthy sheikh who could have just paid off the scammers and moved on, but instead had chosen to fight, had given her resources and trust and a chance to matter. Thank you, she said simply. Thank you for having the courage to whisper 2 words in Arabic when staying silent would have been safer. He smiled. Hatha Muziaf. This is a fake. 2 words that saved my fortune and exposed a conspiracy. Never underestimate the power of speaking truth. Outside, the Mercedes waited. Omar was already in the back seat, waving. Her mother would be making kafta in the small Queen's apartment that suddenly felt like the safest place in the world. But as Layla walked toward the car, she felt different. Not just relieved or victorious, transformed. She'd come to New York 7 years ago as a refugee from tragedy, believing she'd lost everything that mattered. She'd been wrong. What mattered was still here. Still fighting. Still believing that one person with courage could change everything. Just like her father had believed. Just like he'd taught her. 6 months later. The memorial garden in Prospect Park wasn't large. Just a quiet corner with flowering trees, stone benches, and a small plaque that read, "In memory of those who fought for truth and justice, and paid the ultimate price." Layla stood before it, holding a bouquet of jasmine, her father's favorite. Beside her, Omar adjusted his tie, uncomfortable in formal clothes but willing to endure them for this. Their mother sat on the bench, healthier than she'd been in years, her medication now fully covered by Layla's new insurance and the settlement the Sheikh's lawyers had negotiated with the recovered syndicate assets. He would have loved this, Rania Hassan said softly, touching the plaque. 7 names were engraved below the dedication: Kareem Hassan, Catherine Morrison, and the 5 investors who'd been murdered trying to stop the syndicate. The other 2 families hadn't wanted public recognition, but they'd accepted the Sheikh's offer to have their loved ones remembered here. He would have been insufferable about it, Omar corrected, smiling through tears. Giving speeches about justice and responsibility and telling everyone "I told you so." He earned the right, Layla said, kneeling to place the jasmine at the memorial's base. He was right all along. And now everyone knows it. The official investigation had vindicated everything. The U.S. attorney had brought charges against 43 individuals connected to the syndicate. Senator Patricia Whitmore and Deputy Director James Mercer were awaiting trial, their bail denied, their careers destroyed. Dozens of fraud victims were receiving restitution. International law enforcement had dismantled the remaining cells across 4 continents. It had been exhausting, dangerous, and absolutely worth it. Miss Hassan. A voice behind them, Rebecca Chun, now working on the full documentary about the syndicate's exposure. I hate to interrupt, but we're ready for the interview whenever you are. Layla stood, brushing dirt from her knees. She'd agreed to do one final on-camera interview for Rebecca's documentary, to be released next month. After that, no more press. No more attention. Just work. Important work. She kissed her mother's cheek. I'll meet you at the restaurant after? Omar's treating. Only because you're paying me back, Omar protested. But he was grinning. He'd been grinning a lot lately, ever since the Sheikh had offered to fund his graduate studies in Middle Eastern history. Go be famous. We'll save you the good hummus. The interview location was back where it all started, La Pearl Bluey Restaurant, currently closed for a private event. The dining room looked exactly as Layla remembered, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the scent of expensive cuisine. Except table 7 now had a small brass plaque. On this table, Layla Hassan spoke 2 words that changed everything. The restaurant owner insisted, Rebecca explained as they set up. Apparently reservations have tripled since the story broke. Everyone wants to sit at the table where the conspiracy was exposed. Capitalism finds a way, Layla murmured, but she was smiling. Sheikh Rashid arrived a few minutes later, looking considerably more relaxed than he had 6 months ago. His father, wheelchair-bound but sharp as ever, accompanied him, along with Tariq and a surprise guest. Malik Tarazzi, or rather, the man who used to be Malik Tarazzi. He'd undergone minor cosmetic changes, enough to let him move freely without being recognized, and had relocated to Dubai with his daughter Maya, who is now enrolled in one of the finest medical programs in the Gulf. "Thank you for coming," Layla said, shaking his hand. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I," Malik admitted. "But the Sheikh convinced me that closure matters. For all of us." He gestured to the restaurant. "I worked here for 12 years, watching wealthy people make deals, spotting targets, reporting back. I told myself it was necessary, that the people we targeted deserved it somehow. And now?" Rebecca asked, cameras rolling. "Now I know I was rationalizing evil by calling it duty." Malik's voice was steady, unflinching. "I was complicit in murder, in fraud, in destroying families like Layla's. No amount of witness testimony or cooperation can undo that. But maybe," he looked at Layla, "maybe helping dismantle what I helped build is a start." "It's more than a start," Sheikh Rashid said. "Your intelligence has helped authorities recover $340 million in stolen assets. 15 families have gotten their futures back because you chose to speak up." 17 families now, Tariq corrected, checking his tablet. 2 more accounts were traced and unfrozen yesterday. And the information you provided about the London cell led to 3 more arrests last week. Malik nodded, but his expression remained haunted. Redemption, Layla had learned, wasn't a moment, it was a process. Maybe a lifelong one. Rebecca turned to Layla. 6 months ago, you were a waitress worried about paying your mother's medical bills. Today, you're the chief security analyst for a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You've exposed a government conspiracy, and you're being called a hero across international media. How does that feel? "Surreal," Layla answered honestly. "And insufficient. Because 7 people are still dead. My father is still gone. Catherine Morrison will never solve another case. No amount of justice brings them back." "But their deaths weren't meaningless," Sheikh Rashid interjected. "Your father's investigation provided the foundation we built on. Catherine's surveillance devices gave us the evidence we needed. Their sacrifices mattered." "They did," Layla agreed. "But I think they'd want me to focus on what comes next, not what we lost. So that's what I'm doing." "Which is?" Rebecca prompted. "Preventing this from happening again." Layla pulled out a folder, not her father's old notes, but something new. "The Sheikh and I are launching the Hassan Foundation for Financial Justice. It'll provide free legal services to fraud victims, train investigators to spot sophisticated scams, and advocate for stronger international oversight of financial crimes. We're also creating a whistleblower protection program for people like Malik, assets who want out but don't know how to escape safely." "Named after your father," Rebecca noted. "He started this fight. We're finishing it." Layla's voice strengthened. "The Crescent Syndicate is broken, but there are other operations out there. Other architects. Other victims who need someone to believe them and help them fight back. That's what the foundation does. We become the help my father needed and never got." Sheikh Rashid's father, Sheikh Ahmad al-Zahrani, the original target who'd survived the car accident, spoke for the first time, his voice soft but clear. "Miss Hassan saved my son $23 million by speaking 2 words. But those 2 words did something more valuable. They reminded us that ordinary people with extraordinary courage can change the world. That a waitress can bring down empires. That truth, no matter how small, can shatter lies, no matter how powerful." "Hatha Muziaf," Layla whispered. "This is a fake." 2 words in Arabic, Sheikh Ahmad continued. Spoken by a young woman who'd lost everything but refused to lose her integrity. That's not just a story about exposing fraud. It's a story about what makes us human. The choice to speak up when staying silent would be easier. The choice to fight when running would be safer. The choice to hope when despair would be simpler. Rebecca let the moment breathe, then asked the question Layla had been expecting. What would you say to your father now if you could? Layla took a breath, feeling the weight of everything, grief and victory and exhaustion and hope, pressing against her chest. I'd tell him he was right. About everything. About fraud leaving patterns you can spot if you know what to look for. About courage being the choice you make when you're terrified. About how one person can make a difference if they refuse to be silent. She smiled through tears. And I'd tell him that his daughter learned from the best. That she finished what he started. That his sacrifice wasn't in vain. I think, Sheikh Ahmad said gently, he already knows. The celebration afterward was small and private, just the people who'd fought this battle together. They gathered at the Sheikh's penthouse suite overlooking Central Park, sharing food and stories and the peculiar intimacy of people who'd survived something extraordinary. Omar was attempting to teach Tariq how to play a card game from their Beirut childhood. Malik was video calling his daughter Maya, introducing her virtually to the Sheikh's father, both men discussing the intricacies of Middle Eastern medical education. Rebecca was already planning her next investigation, energized by the Emmy nomination her preliminary coverage had received. And Layla stood by the window, watching the city lights, feeling her mother's hand slip into hers. Your father would be so proud, Rania said softly. I wish he could see you now. I think he can, Layla replied. Then, quieter, Mama, are you happy? Really happy? Not just healthy, but content. Rania considered the question seriously. 7 years ago, I lost my husband and my homeland in the same breath. I thought happiness was something that happened to other people, in other lives. But standing here, watching my children become the people they were meant to be. She squeezed Layla's hand. Yes, Habibti. I'm happy. Are you? Was she? Layla took inventory. Her mother was healthy, her brother was thriving, her father's name was cleared, justice had been served, and she was doing work that actually mattered. She had purpose, resources, and people she trusted. She had survived. More than survived, she'd won. Yeah, Layla said, surprised by how true it felt. I think I am. Sheikh Rashid joined them at the window, holding 3 glasses of sparkling cider. He didn't drink alcohol, and Layla had developed a taste for the non-alcoholic alternative during her months working with him. A toast, he said, handing them each a glass. To Layla Hassan, who saved a stranger and changed the world. To Kareem Hassan, whose courage echoes through his daughter. And to everyone who refuses to let injustice win. They clinked glasses, the sound bright and clear. What's next for you? Rania asked the Sheikh. After all this, the investigations, the trials, the publicity, what do you want? Honestly. Sheikh Rashid looked out at the city, thoughtful. I want to keep building what we started. The Hassan Foundation is just the beginning. There are systems that need changing, policies that need reform, victims who need advocates. This fight doesn't end with Mercer and Whitmore's conviction. It continues every day, in every choice we make to help instead of ignore, to act instead of accept. That sounds exhausting, Omar called from across the room, overhearing. It is, the Sheikh agreed. But it's also exhilarating. Purpose is exhausting. Meaning is exhausting. And I'll take exhausted with purpose over comfortable with apathy any day. Spoken like someone who can afford good coffee, Layla teased. Spoken like someone who learned from the best, he countered, echoing her earlier words about her father. The evening wound down slowly, naturally. Rebecca left first, already composing her next article. Malik departed for the airport. He had a morning flight back to Dubai and a daughter waiting. Tariq excused himself to coordinate security for an upcoming international summit. Eventually, it was just the Hassan family and Sheikh Rashid, sitting in comfortable silence. I have something for you, the Sheikh said finally, pulling an envelope from his pocket. I wanted to wait until tonight, until everything was settled, to give you this. Layla opened it carefully. Inside was a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery, dated 6 months ago, the day after they'd exposed the syndicate. Dear Layla, if you're reading this, it means we won. It means the truth came out, justice was served, and you survived to see it. I wanted you to know, Everything I offered you, the job, the resources, the protection, wasn't charity. It was recognition. I saw in you what others missed, a brilliant legal mind trapped in circumstances beyond your control, waiting for a chance to prove what you could do. You've proven it. Your father would be overwhelmed with pride. Your family is safe and thriving. And you've helped dismantle a criminal empire that hurt countless people, including mine. But more than that, you've reminded me why any of this matters. Wealth without purpose is just numbers in an account. Power without compassion is just cruelty with better PR. What makes us human, what makes us worthy, is the choice to help when help is needed. To fight when fighting is hard. To speak truth when silence would be easier. You are extraordinary, Layla Hassan. Not because of what you survived, but because of who you chose to become despite it. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for changing yours. Thank you for showing all of us what courage looks like. With deepest respect and gratitude. Sheikh Rashid Al-Zahrani. Layla's vision blurred with tears. You wrote this the day after we went public? I wanted you to have something to hold on to if things went badly. A reminder that what you did mattered, regardless of outcome. The Sheikh smiled. But things didn't go badly. They went perfectly. So consider it a graduation letter instead, from the woman who served desserts to the woman who serves justice. Layla folded the letter carefully, tucking it back in the envelope. She'd frame it later, put it somewhere she could see it on hard days. A reminder of who she'd become. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. For the job, yes. But more for believing I could do it. You never needed my belief, Sheikh Rashid replied. You had your own. I just gave you a chance to use it. Later that night, back in the apartment in Queens, larger now in a better building, but still in Queens because it was home, Layla sat at the small desk that had once been her father's. His old study in Beirut had been destroyed years ago, but she'd salvaged a few things: his favorite pen, a photograph of the family, and a leather journal he'd used for personal notes, not legal work. She opened it now to a random page, reading his familiar handwriting. The work we do matters not because it's easy or profitable, but because someone must stand between injustice and its victims. Someone must say no more. Someone must fight. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? If not us, then who? Layla repeated softly. If not now, then when? Her father had asked those questions his whole life. Had lived them. Had died for them. Now they were hers to answer. She pulled out a fresh notebook, the first page of many, and began writing. Not a legal brief or investigation notes, but something simpler. Dear Baba, I kept my promise. I finished what you started. The people who hurt you, who killed you, who tried to make the world believe you were a failure, they're in prison now. Your name is cleared. Your work is honored. And your daughter. Your daughter is doing exactly what you taught her to do, fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. Speaking truth when lies are louder. Choosing courage over comfort. I miss you every day. I wish you could see Omar thriving in graduate school, see Mama healthy and happy, see the foundation that bears your name helping people the way you always wanted to help them. But I think somehow you do see. I think you know. I love you, Baba. Always. Your daughter, Layla. She closed the notebook, feeling something settle in her chest. Not closure exactly, but peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you've honored the people you love by becoming someone they'd be proud to know. Outside her window, New York City hummed with its endless energy. Millions of people living their lives, unaware that a waitress with a sharp eye and a brave heart had helped change their world. That was okay. Layla didn't need recognition. She needed purpose. She needed meaning. She needed to know that her father's sacrifice had led to something good. And it had. The Hassan Foundation would open its doors in 3 weeks. The documentary would premiere in 2 months. The trials would continue for years. The work was just beginning. But tonight, Layla Hassan, daughter of a hero, sister to a scholar, survivor of tragedy, exposer of corruption, and servant of justice, allowed herself something she hadn't permitted in 7 long years. Rest. Tomorrow, the fight would continue. Tonight, she could finally breathe. 1 year later, the Hassan Foundation's Manhattan office occupied a renovated brownstone in the Village, the same building that had once been a syndicate safe house. Poetic justice, Layla thought, turning a place of crime into a place of restoration. Her office was on the 3rd floor, windows overlooking the street where she'd once run through tunnels in the dark. Now it was filled with case files, legal books, and a wall of photographs. Her father, Catherine Morrison, the 7 murdered investors, and dozens of fraud victims the foundation had helped. A knock on her door. "Ms. Hassan? Your 3 o'clock is here." The woman who entered was in her 50s, nervous, holding a folder that Layla recognized immediately, the same kind of fake investment documents that had started everything. "Thank you for seeing me," the woman said. "My name is Elena Volkov. I think I've been scammed, but I'm not sure, and the police said there's nothing they can do without proof, and I didn't know where else to turn." "You came to the right place," Layla said gently, gesturing to a chair. "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. And don't worry, we're going to figure this out together." As Elena began her story, Layla felt that familiar clarity, purpose crystallizing into action. This was why the foundation existed. This was what her father had fought for. This was how his legacy continued. One victim at a time. One truth at a time. One fight at a time. Hatham Yousef, she thought, already seeing the patterns in Elena's documents. This is a fake. And unlike her father, unlike Catherine, unlike the 7 investors who died alone, Elena wouldn't have to fight alone. She'd have help. She'd have justice. She'd have the Hassan Foundation, and everything Layla had built from 2 words whispered in Arabic in a restaurant 1 year ago. 2 words that changed everything. The end.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.